This is the story of Peter and the Wolf. It is a story with music, and all of the characters will be played by the instruments of the orchestra. My friend Jerome will be played by the kalimba. My stepfather Shahid will be played by the junjun. My mother will be played by guitar and voice. And I, Nick, will be sung. Before I begin, I guess I should warn you that you shouldn't believe everything I say. Stories we have of ourselves are built, like all good stories, from corners of faded photos, shrapnel of family lore and lies told over the years. We add our own spice, and then we serve them up to new lovers, friends, and of course, back to family. Some are from memories so vivid that they appear to be seared into our retinas, whilst others come and go and shift like ghosts. Yes, others we will swear hand on heart that we witnessed firsthand when everyone else is telling us, no man, you were miles away. Ancient Chinese proverb tells us that there is your truth, there is my truth, and then there is the truth. Zimbabwe, 1985. A country full of belief and hope. Robert Gabriel Mugabe, the elected Prime Minister and head of ZANU-PF, has been leading the country for 4 years, creating a new vision for Africa. All across the land, the blacks are toy-toying, happy that their man is proving that he's right for the job. The nervous white Rhodesians are slowly unclenching their asses as they realize that their land and their wealth are safe. For now. Everybody else is just getting on with life, happy that war is now over. Providing the backing track to all of this are the towering pop infernos of Michael Jackson and Queen. Radio Gaga is #1 in the charts, and Thriller is tearing up dance floors after 2 years. Masasa. Home. We lived out on the Mutare Road, heading out of town towards Cleveland Dam, and beyond that, Rua, open farmland and bush, out to where the sky swallows the earth. Our single-story house had whitewashed walls and a corrugated tin roof that amplified rain to a deafening thunder and summer sun to a white heat. On the walls sat giant spiders waiting to snare mosquitoes. Bats would flit in through open windows before being dispatched back out with a tennis racket. Outside the window, 2 tall trees with swallows nesting inside. At dusk they would flock out and fill the sky with a storm of wings. The house sat in the corner of an unruly 4-acre garden, ringed with a high straw and cane fence. Next door, a builder's yard with a forbidden playground of rusted machinery and breeze blocks. 2 horses ran free. Wildfire, Gundagai. The wildest part of the garden was my realm. At the heart of my empire, the Rock. The Rock was a giant, 3-story high stone that loomed. It had sheer vertical sides, impossible for anyone to climb. But not 7-year-old me or my friend Jerome. Jerome. The journey up the rock involved a climb through the branches of the avocado tree that stood next to it. Then a shimmy along one of the higher branches before dropping onto the top. Once up there, we would while away the afternoons lobbing avocado pips at horse or human who were foolish enough to pass below. Pah! Most would run away, but the old grumpy rooster would duck and harry, avoiding my most deadly shots with ease. Pah! Masasa. Home. School. Admiral Tate Primary School. My teacher, Mrs. Batty Batwell, an iced-haired, chipped-flinted dragoness. Nothing escaped her laser gaze. Little dog, you may look too. See, Janet, here is something red. Can you see it? I see something. I see something brown. It is a brown dog. Look, little dog. Let us go. What? No, I didn't, Mrs. Batwell. Well, he's lying. Well, they're both lying. Shut up, Manos. No, but... okay, yeah, it was me. No, Jerome... No, but Jerome was only doing it because I did it. What? Oh, come on, Mrs. Bat... Oh, it's not fair. Idiot. Thank you. I see something. I see... Mrs. Badwell, please, can I read another story, please? Well, I don't like it. Well, because it's boring. I don't know, we could read something else. I could tell a story. Well, I know a good one. It's called Peter and the Wolf. I can! Oh, thank you, amazing! My mother had a large collection of music, but one held a very special place for me and stood much higher than all the others. Prokofiev's Peter and the Wolf. Gotta be standing something, got to be standing something, you wanna be standing something, got to be standing. Peter and the Wolf is a story about a boy and his favourite music is Michael Jackson. Woo! Yeah! No, it is Mrs. Badwell, it's his favourite music. Got to be stuck. But it's his favourite music. but Mrs. I'm telling... Ah, okay. Peter and the Wolf is a story about a boy called Peter who is 7 and he lives in a country called Russia which has snow everywhere. And snow, well, it's ice that falls from the sky. Oh. Anyway, he lives there and he lives in this compound, but he's not allowed to go out because it's too dangerous. Because there's a wolf that lives in the woods nearby, and if he goes out, the wolf might get him and it might kill him. So he's just to stay inside. But one day, this wolf gets hold of one of his friends and it kills his friends. And then they become enemies. Yeah? The two of them. Peter and the wolf. My stepfather, Shahid, was a tall, handsome, coloured Zimbabwean from a large Muslim family with 5 elder brothers. Now, before you stomp out in righteous indignation at my use of the dubious term coloured, I'd just like to explain something of the ethnic makeup of sub-Saharan Africa to you. The term coloured is used to describe people of a mixed race background. Hey, Omer! Shh, not yet! The term coloured is used to describe people of a mixed race background. The coloured ethnic makeup is comprised of indigenous tribes, mixed with colonial tribes, mixed with a myriad of others who arrived as slaves, workers, and immigrants. Broadly speaking, black people are called black, white people are called white, and everybody in between is called coloured. Shahid and my mother met and fell in love on an organised group horse riding trip. They galloped through the bush by day and they slept under the stars by night. At first she was blown away by his rugged Marlborough man type qualities. He was gracefully athletic, fiercely intelligent and a stunning horseman. Then, as she got to know him better, she discovered his more tender, fragile side, his love of drawing, his insecurities around his family, and the darkness that he carried locked away from his time fighting in the war. Shahid would allow me to ride on the back of his motorbike or steer the car on our way to the dam. He taught me how to draw, how to make a bow and arrow, and he introduced me to the fiery wonders of green mangoes with chili and salt. Wow! Yes, his wild and unpredictable side was exciting and new, bringing home a fresh haunch of wildebeest, cancelling school to go snake hunting. He once stole a baby crocodile from the lion and shooter park. I mean, he took it back a couple of days later, but a fucking crocodile.
What? A crocodile? I don't believe you.
Yeah, it's true. Yes. I mean, okay, he was a little bit kooky, but it was endearing. Who else stood outside the pub, hat in hand, sharing their beer with their horse? Now, my life, my childhood in Africa was one of heat, one of vibrancy and one of freedom. For all of my fantasies of being a poor Siberian waif in a desolate Siberian wasteland, the truth was a little bit different. Then, not long after we arrived, my mother announced the arrival of Shahid's son, my brother. You should have seen how proud he was, strutting around with his chest all puffed out. The rooster had nothing on him. Life was good. Okay, right, so boys, the story of Peter and the Wolf. Peter is a boy who's 7 years old and his favourite music is Michael Jackson. And he was even like a dancer in the video for Gotta Be Starting Something. And he was... What? It's not wanna be starting something, man. It's gotta be starting something. Got to be starting something. I'm trying to be Jerome, but Jerome's interrupting me, Mrs. Badwell. I'm trying to... It's gotta be starting something. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yes, so he lives in his compound, you know, and there's not a lot to do there. There's like a tree which is like 8 times higher than all the other trees and a massive rock next to it. But you know, there's not a lot to do. There's only like a rooster who he has wars with, and there's like a bird who's his spy friend. But what he really wants to do is he wants to go and play in the builder's yard next door, but he's not allowed. No, it's too dangerous. But one day, Peter's mother is sat on top of the washing machine to stop it bouncing out of the front door during the spin cycle. Peter sees the gate has been left open. This is his opportunity to sneak out like Manimal. Like Manimal, Mrs. Bagwell. Manimal? Mrs. Bagwell, is it... You don't know what Manimal is? It's a television program. Oh, Mrs. Bagwell, you must watch more TV, educate your mind. Manimal is a TV program about a man who can turn into animals to fight crime. He can turn into like a hawk, he can turn into a puma, he can turn into like a hawk and a puma because they're like the best too. And then when he turns into the puma, it's amazing. He starts to sweat and then he closes his eyes. And then when he opens them, they're yellow like a puma's. And then hair starts to blow all over his body. And oh no, what's happening to my hands? They're turning into balls. And I turn into a puma. And he goes, I got a big tail. Peter sneaks out like Manimal and he calls his friend the bird to join him.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to make an owl, like a noise owl noise, to call my friend the bird. I can do it normally, man, but I don't know, today it's not working, huh?
Okay, let me show you. Yeah, shut up. Hey, no, forget about it.
Once in there, he says it's better than he ever thought. There's loads of amazing things to play with. He drives tractors like tanks. Then he digs holes with diggers before filling them in again. Then they start a war. Him against the rooster. The rooster's the enemy. He chases the rooster over brick mountains before having to retreat again.
You crazy man!
Then he goes after the rooster again. Then he goes after him with raising claws. It's more fun than anything else ever. One day I was trying to hypnotize the rooster into throwing itself under a lorry when I heard my name being called. Nicholas! I couldn't think of anything that I'd done wrong recently, but that was my full name. I knew I was in trouble. I decided against flight and went in to find him. Shahid was in the toilet room. There was a sour smell of beer and sweat and ganja surrounding him. It smelt like trouble. pointed at the floor. What's that? Water? It's not water. It's piss. Why did you piss on the floor? Now, I had watched him wee many times, and besides the foaming jet of urine that whipped up a lather in the bowl, my small and uncircumcised willy seemed hopelessly inadequate and tinkled unavoidably around the hole in the concrete floor. It wasn't me. It was you. Don't do it again. It wasn't. My revenge was simple. The next time I went to wee, I made sure that not only did I sprinkle it on the floor, I liberally sprayed it all over. In fact, I weed on the floor, the walls, and by standing on tiptoes, I got it on the handle of the flush. I waited for the fallout. But nothing happened. A few nights later, a storm was brewing, and Shahid came home. He was half drunk and doubly tired, an evil combination. I was shooting lightning bolts out of the window when he strode in, belt in hand. Back in the builder's yard, the war is coming to an end. Builder's yard! He's been shot in the head with an arrow. I've been trying to get back to his hot crowd. He sees a shadow. It's his mother! Oh! She gives him a hard clap around the backside. Ouch! Oh, I know! She shouts at him. What is the guard dog? Wolf! What if the guard wolf had gotten hold of him? It might have ripped his leg off or even killed him. Peter plays this image over and over. His leg being ripped off and spraying everyone with blood. Months passed and life ambled on. But then the steel plant that Shahid worked in closed down. He was offered relocation or redundancy and he took the latter. Various bits of work were thrown his way by friends and family, but they eventually trickled to nothing as the smoking and drinking increased and the reliability and good humour decreased. One day I was playing at Jerome's house. His mother allowed the two of us to go to a township cinema with their milkman to go and watch a film. We sat on wobbly benches in a large shed, eating sadza, watching Coke, and we watched a film about a man who could run as fast as a cheetah. Yo! What a film, blew me away. When she found out, he exploded. It was the biggest betrayal of trust to have sent a member of his family, his son, into a black township with a black man. It was only natural that Shahid, a coloured man from a coloured family, who had lived for years under the oppressive yoke of white rule, should treat black people like shit, particularly men. When it turned out that my mother had sanctioned the trip, his logical conclusion was that she was having sex with their milkman. He promptly sacked our milkman and threw our gardener out too in case she was having sex with them. Something snapped. Some taut, frayed wire that had kept him suspended above the black pit of himself gave, and he fell. rich. One day, back at the house after a hiding, Peter goes back to the rock. He looks down at all the amazing things that he was playing with in the builder's yard. Wow! He thinks about how much fun he had and what he's going to play with the next time he's there. Then he sees the stupid rooster's there all on its own. Ha! He looks around for a pip to throw at it. But then something catches his eye. It's another eye. A black, shiny eye. And it's watching him. One eye becomes two eyes as the shadows move and the guard wolf slowly melts out of his leg. Yeah, he's massive. He's as high as an adult's chest and as broad as a bull elephant. Ooh, Peter knows he should do something. He should call somebody. The A-Team, Kit, MacGyver. He should...
MacGyver? Who is MacGyver?
MacGyver, man. Come on, the TV program. Don't tell me you've never... God! Forget about it. The point is, the wolf has him hypnotized. He cannot move an inch.
Good.
Muslims don't drink. It is forbidden. These words were repeated like a mantra by my stepfather's family over and over as he drank more and more. Whereas previously, he had had the occasional binge which had resulted in a late night row. Now the occasional bout of sobriety resulted in flowers and broken promises. Shahid's own father had died 11 years previously, whilst 3 times over the limit, but it was never spoken about. It was a terrible accident, one of those freak things you read about in Good Housewife magazine. So the rows got worse as the drinking intensified. Glasses and plates would smash against walls and then crunch underfoot as this strange beast stalked out. There for breakfast, a little smoke to see the day in. A few beers at lunchtime and then moving on to spirits in the afternoon. The drink wasn't the problem though, it was the catalyst. Deep wells of fear and rage and hurt filtered through the drink and drugs, causing increasingly bizarre and unpredictable behaviour. Sitting outside my mother's school on wildfire, chugging down a brew, turning up at my school and mumbling incoherently into my shoulder. He killed the rooster and ate it. At some point or another, all of my mother's friends were chased off the property and dwindled to all but nothing. And more smokes were smoked, more drinks were drunk, and the hours of the day got longer and were filled with rage. Nicholas! What's that? What? That. Chilies. Eats them. Now, I had watched him wring the rooster's neck, pluck it and carry it inside for his supper. That night, I sat at the dinner table and I refused to eat any of my meal. My mother, for once, did not try and force me. No gardener to torment, no friends to jump on when they came in through the gate, and now, no nemesis to wage war against. My revenge had been simple. I had gone to the drinks cabinet, taken all the bottles, and emptied them all over his hallowed chili plants. Castle! Zambezi! Black Label! Jim Beam! Napoleon! And Johnny Walker! The bottles piled up empty in the soil as their poison slunk down to the roots. don't want them. Eat them. I don't want them. Eat them.
Hey! What are you doing? Just tell the truth.
All of a sudden, as if they can read each other's minds, Peter and the wolf break eye contact as their gazes shift slowly down to the chicken. Stupid rooster! The dumb bird that had ruined so many of his games that he has tried to kill 100 times. Now that he sees it there, he realizes that he wants it back in the compound, safe. Come on, do something, run, fly. Stupid chicken! All of a sudden, it's all over. It's too late. There's an explosion of flying and squawking and feathers and blood. The wolf's strength and speed are too much, and then it's all over. Poor rooster. No longer with us. No longer Peter's friend. The wolf turns and looks at Peter. Blood hanging from his jaws. Peter understands. Peter understands that he and the wolf are now true enemies. The wolf has killed his friend, looked him in the eye, and said, "Fuck you!" What did I say? Mrs. Batwell. No, that's what enemies say to each other when they're grown up. No, but it is. My daddy says it to his enemies, and he's a grown up. But no, what? But Mrs. Batwell, I was telling a story like you asked me. The cane. You're but Mrs. Bagwell, but it's not fair. My mother decided that she had had enough. She packed a suitcase, she bundled my baby brother, myself, and my unborn sister onto a plane. And we set off for my mother's land of birth, the United Kingdom.
The shooting of Once Upon a Time into the Meadow.
Memories from England. Cold, wet, zebra crossings, Lego, panda licorice, a new baby sister, Marmite. I don't know if I went to school at all in that period. I don't remember it. What I do remember was a gentler, less visceral way of life. Long walks on things called downs that just went up and up. A low sky with very close horizons.
On a branch of a tall tree sat Peter's friend, the bird.
Shortly after the arrival of my new sister, Shahid turned up to convince his family to come home. He stayed in the area whilst he and my mother talked things through. My approval wasn't needed, but he won it anyway, elegantly. One day after lunch, the drizzle had eased off and we were busy making paper planes to fly down the street. We turned, and there was Shahid. I don't know if he used paper planes to impress my mother, but whatever he did, they were reconciled. I decided that I wanted to go back, if only to learn the secret of that plane. 2 weeks later, we kissed new friends, neighbours and family goodbye, and we set off back to Africa. Home! I was back at school with my friends. The house had been tidied and done up. Where there was once a pile of empty bottles, there was now an empty space. My mother managed to get her old job back and most of her old friends. The less brave ones would sit on the edge of their chairs, nervously fingering their cups of tea before loudly declaring that they'd better be on their way now. Thanks for everything though. Perhaps next time my mother could go over to their house. Better be off now. Thanks and bye. 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 Yeah, my bum is cocksore, that cane hurt, gee. No, man. No, it's what enemies say to each other when they're grown-ups at war. No, like this, okay? You look them in the eye and you say, fuck! Well, Mrs. Batwell? No, I was just about to start my work now. No, I was... the story. I can. Okay, cool. So... Peter and the wolf are now enemies, and enemies go to war. And if there's one thing Peter knows about, it's war. Okay, fall in. Bow, check. Arrows, check. Rope, check. AK-47 assault rifle with grenade launcher and laser sights. Confiscated, no check. Ability to turn into an animal like Manimal to fight crime. Working on it, check. Ability to be very clever in dangerous situations like MacGyver, check. Moustache like Magnum PI, check. Okay, fall out! Peter goes back to the rock. He starts to climb. Did I mention before that it's very difficult to climb? The rock is very difficult. I mentioned that before. Anyway, he goes to climb. His moustache hiding any noise. He takes his rope off the shoulder, ties one end around his waist, and makes a lasso with the other end. A lasso, man. He makes a lasso. I know how to tie a lasso. And I do know how to tie a lasso. You don't know how to tie a lasso. Look, I'm trying. You don't even know how to tie your own shoelaces. I do know how to tie my shoelaces. Well, I'm not going to do it now, am I? Well, what, do you want me to stand here tying my shoelaces all day, or do you want to hear the story? Right there. Shut up. Shahid had work. Not a permanent job, but enough to provide and support an income for his family, and that was important to him. He did still have the occasional drink, but he'd cut out spirits and weed, and he'd started going to mosque again. But sometimes all it takes is a nudge. An ex-army buddy, Jan, was in town and thought he would grab a drink with his old comrade. There was a dozen empty beer bottles and a half-empty bottle of brandy in front of them. The fog of weed was heavy in the air. Hey! School finished say hello. Don't just stand there looking like a fish. Come on. Jan. Nick. Jan. I sat and listened to them recount stories from their time in the war. It didn't sound fun. It sounded exciting. It sounded terrifying. They were on to the third bottle of brandy when my mother came home from work. She greeted Jan politely and suggested that they wrap up their session now so that she could feed everyone and get the kids to bed. Jan said that the kids were fine and that she should join them for a drink. My mother broke the tension. She bundled the children out of the back door into the car and we set off for Jerome's house. I was sat on the top bunk with Jerome when the front door went off like a bomb. And then he was in the house. Jerome wrapped his arms around my neck and gathered me tight as we listened to the shouting coming from down the hall. And then Shahid was in the bedroom. There was a shouting match, a tennis match of instructions between Shahid and Jerome's mother. Come here, stay there, come here, stay there. And all the while Jerome's arms wrapped around my neck, squeezing me tight, choking me as his dirty feet lashed out against the outstretched arms. The fighting reached boiling point. I closed my eyes and I went away inside. My mother emerged and told Shahid, okay, we will come home, okay. Later I lay in bed, willing the inevitable not to happen. And then it started. I dropped off to dreams of wild animals with flashing teeth. Right, so he's on the rock. Peter summons his friend the bird. The bird flies down. He whispers instructions. The bird zooms off around the wolf's head. The wolf jumps up, twists around to catch the little bird. But what the wolf doesn't realize is that with each leap, he comes closer towards the overhanging rope, towards the noose, towards Peter's trap. The brave little bird zooms down between the open jaws, hot breath in its back as the teeth snap tight, pow, behind it. He goes around for another daredevil pass, but this is no cat he's dealing with. This is a wolf. A smart wolf. The wolf twists around and leaps much higher than before. The little bird is now heading towards the open mouth of death itself. But what the wolf doesn't realize is that he has leapt straight into Peter's trap. His bushy tail flicks around in through the open noose. Peter grabs hold of the rope, he closes his eyes, and he throws himself off the branch. The first day of Eid, and all the Muslims of Harare are gearing up for their celebrations. Shahid is in a great mood. He's got a freshly ironed white shirt, neatly trimmed beard. I notice he has not had a breakfast beer today. mother has decided on a simple, dark blue dress. My mother is not a Muslim. She will not be going to mosque today. As I am going to mosque, I assume that means that I am a Muslim, although I don't know when or how it happened. I've been to mosque a few times before, but I'm still at a loss when it comes to performing wudu. As I enter the cool, dark space, I kneel when everyone kneels. I touch my head to the floor along with the others, and I do my best to emulate the rituals that are linked in some way to the soft chanting that I cannot understand. After prayer is done, we go back to the house to where the family are gathering. I look to see if anyone's around and if there's any food that I could steal. A feast of magnificent proportions has been laid out on a series of tables under white lace cloth to keep the flies out. No one's around. I reach under, I grab 3 samosas and wolf them down quickly. I then saunter down the corridor, wiping the grease from my hands on the walls as I go. As I pass the kitchen, I hear what sounds like a hushed argument coming from inside. I recognize the 2 voices. One, quiet and pleading, was my mother's. The other, cold and unmoving, Shaheed's mother, Amina's. As I enter the kitchen, they break off their exchange. Amina fixes my mother with a stern gaze and says, "My son is a Muslim and Muslims do not drink." And then she sweeps out, ruffling my hair as she goes. My mother and I stand mute in the kitchen. She looks like I felt the day I got on the wrong bus after school, alone and panicked, with all roads looking the same. Peter falls and falls for what seems like a whole school day. As he falls, he can hear the squish of cars on the road outside. He can hear somebody opening a bottle of Coke with their teeth. He can hear the high whinny of the horses calling each other. And there in the background, his mother calling him. The rope snaps tight around his waist. He looks up and sees his friend the bird flying off to safety. Woo! Before realizing that, uh-oh, he's in trouble. Swinging towards him on the other end of the rope is an upside-down, angry wolf. Ah, yeah! The wolf sees him, opens his jaws wide. Yeah! Peter, without thinking, summons Superman's strength, grabs hold of the rope and pulls it down. The rope moves down, the wolf moves up, and they swing past each other. Prey, inches below predator. Peter realizes how foolish he was to try and catch this wild animal. It is now just a matter of time before they come to a rest with a breath separating them. He cannot cut the rope or the wolf will fall and get him, but he cannot just hang there forever. He'll starve. Hey! What would his friends of heroes of television do? He tries to rack his brains, but nothing comes. Deadlock. We left, just like that. My mother had contacted her mother, who had bought some tickets in secret and posted them to a friend's address. I was walking out of school one day when I saw Jerome's father stood by the school gates. He told me that I was going to their house and that my mother would meet us there in a few hours. When my mother arrived with 3 brown leather suitcases and my brother and sister, I knew something was up. She knelt before me and told me that in a few hours we would be boarding a plane to go and live with my grandmother in England. I asked if we'd be coming back soon, like the last time we went to go and live in England. She said no. She said that this time it was for good. I had lots of things churning around inside me, each with its own strong current. I wanted to say them aloud, but I couldn't find the words. So I said nothing. We said our goodbyes under the moths and mosquitoes that flocked to the bulb by their garage door. Jerome's mother told me that he would write to me. My mother told him that I would do the same. He and I just looked at each other. As the lights of the runway fell away beneath us, my mother closed her eyes and sank her head back into an exhausted sleep. I sat with an unopened book on my lap and stared at the headrest in front of me with the Air Zimbabwe logo of a pigeon speeding in a basket. And I tried to remember England again. Cold, wet, zebra crossings, dusty roads, wet roads, Sadza, Marmite, big rocks, bumpy downs, shongololos, crocodiles, home. Dear Mrs. Batwell, I am sorry I was not able to finish my story of Peter and the Wolf. I probably would have been able to do it quicker if Jerome hadn't kept interrupting me. Please give him the ruler. Only joking. I'm not coming to Admiral Tate School anymore because I now live in England. My new school is okay, but sometimes the other children throw stones at me and make monkey noises. I fight them, but I am getting better at not fighting them. The good thing is here is that if you fight, you don't get hit by the teachers afterwards. My mother tells me that we will soon be moving to a village called Manchester. My teacher tells me that it rains even more there than here. I think she's joking. I will try and write again soon. In the meantime, I just wanted you to know that in the end, Peter got away okay. The wolf stayed there, though, to protect his empty yard, and is still living under a pile of broken parts. He still has the chain around his leg. I hope you are all well. You can come and visit if you want to. Nicholas. P.S. Please tell Jerome that he was right. It is wannabe starting something, not gotta.